We get up to speed pretty fucking fast here. Chapter 2. The story goes that a Levite married a Levite and had a son. After hiding the boy for 3 months, they made a basket watertight and set it in the reeds of the Nile with the crocodiles. His sister watched to see what happened to the baby. The daughter of Pharaoh just happened along and ordered her slave to get the baby for her. She sent her slave to get a Hebrew to nurse it. When the baby was done breastfeeding, the Pharaoh's daughter, Annabel, made him her son and called him, verse 10, Moses, explaining, I drew him out of the water. For those who do not understand fairy tale euphemisms, which most people don't, this is a classic. It is a classic euphemism for rape and or incest, for any kind of a bastard child. In all likeliness, Moses was, verse 19, an Egyptian. The reason the Pharaoh's daughter took an interest in this one particular boy that was supposedly floating around with all the other drowning Hebrew boys among the crocodiles is that the child was her child. And for those who find this too wild, learn a little about the nature of the kings of our history, or even present day. Her father, the Pharaoh, was the father and grandfather of Moses, and when the reader understands this, the story of Moses makes much more sense. Whereas Lot was happy to say he was drunk, so it was okay to rape his children, the Pharaoh had a family image to protect. He could not and would not recognize Moses as his grandson. Very important. When Moses became a man, he decided to take a walk outside the palace and see what was happening in the land. A bit like Siddhartha, or however you say his name. He saw the Hebrews slaving. He saw an opportunity. Seeing an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, he spun around looking for witnesses, or lack thereof, and killed the man to show whose side he would like to be on. Next day, it was all over town, and the Pharaoh, his grandfather, wanted to kill the bastard Moses. So Moses fucked off to Midian, sat beside a well, and waited for an opportunity. 7 daughters of the priests of Midian showed up to water their flock. Another story that we had a few times. Some tough guy shepherds told them to be gone, and Moses said no, he was with them and would help them water their flocks. Back home, the priest, Reuel, was surprised that the girls had watered the flock so fast, and learning the reason, wanted to break bread with Moses. Moses said, yes. Why do you think I am here? Reuel gave Moses his daughter Zipporah, the oldest and past overdue for breeding. They had a son. He named it, verse 22, Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. That was a quote. Verse 23, a long time after that, the king of Egypt died. The slaves had it bad. The Israelites were moaning so much it woke God from his 400-year nap. He looked down and saw them. Verse 24, God heard their moaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. God looked upon the Israelites, and God took notice of them. End quote. Now, some people will ask, what was the covenant with the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? The covenant was, cut off your foreskins, I give you the world. Simply put. Covenant. Our covenant with God. Nothing against Jewish human beings. People are born into their religion, they can't help it. It's like being born without a leg, or being born with brain damage. It's the same thing with religion. And it's not just Judaism. Judaism and Christianity and Islam is all based on this book. They all hold Moses in high esteem, And I'm going to show you why that is completely and utterly absurd. First of all, it doesn't matter that Moses was likely the child of the Pharaoh's daughter. For that, he was an asshole, but it's part of it. Part of the deal is he was a child of rape, and the grandfather, had no intentions of ever noticing that the boy was his, or accepting, or making it open. And I don't even think he was going to make it acceptable for Moses to understand this. But Moses might have known. Anyway, it's probably not the most important detail in the story, but it's important to notice that kings and queens and pharaohs, well, mostly the male species, were pure bastards. They were not nice. They were seldom nice. The whole concept of kingdom is thievery, plunder, and slavery. And anybody who thinks a queen or a king is nice, they've missed the point. Of course, these days the multinationals have become the kings that are invisible. The shareholders are the ones that own everything. And apparently 1/3 of the world's wealth is tucked away illegally in offshore banks. It's just disappeared. So 1/3 of the world's wealth is simply invisible. It's gone. And it keeps getting bigger, but it doesn't play in the system. So it fucks up the system. And a lot of people think, well, isn't the World Bank nice? Giving out money to third world countries so they can build things they don't want and have huge debts. And it turns out that they are paying 20 times more interest rate to the first world than the first world is giving them in moral support or whatever, handing out food stamps or whatnot, and Jesus saves you medical centers and teeth pulling and whatnot. We're fucking them over when it comes down to that, and it's not even we normal people, it's the big money, and the banks are simply evil. Oh, we're getting out of control here.